Hello YouTube vintage stereo collectors and restorers. This is one that, well, it's not really a stereo, it's an amplifier. It's a PA amplifier. The realistic MPA-20. I picked this up recently at a garage sale at a very reasonable price with a whole bag of cables and connectors. And when I saw this, it was like seeing, I don't know, like an old friend from years ago. These used to be all over the place. It was a very popular model PA amp. There was a bigger one that was 40 or 50 watts. It was a very simple and robust design. Power transformer, it's a 20 watt unit. This is an output transformer and it's solid state. You have two NPNs on the bottom, push-pull. Class AB1. An interstage transformer between the driver and those transistors. A couple thermistors here to keep the heat under control. I never found these to run very hot. Very simple, like one single rail power supply, 2200 microfarad cap, and a bunch of controls. All of them hand wired, so if one went bad or is broken, you can easily change it with something off the shelf from Radio Shack. And metal face. So 2 microphone channels here, a phono master, they're line level, a tone control, and power. And you think, well, why am I featuring this? Well, it's because these used to, you wouldn't believe the work these did. I'm going to show you a clip in a minute of a Nash the Slash concert in London, Ontario from the mid-80s, where I was there with people I worked with. Our store, Wellington Car Radio, sponsored it.
Ladies and gentlemen, ready for our feature act. Big thank you to the guys over here in the van from Wellington Car Radio putting some money up this afternoon for this, and also CJBK. Let's have a big Canadian welcome to Nash the Slash.
When you see the guy talking on the microphone to the crowd, it's a mic plugged into one of these and a couple of, I believe they're Trainer speakers, or Yamahas maybe. And, show you the speaker output. So basically you have a whole range, common, 4 ohm, 8 ohm, 16 ohm. So for standard configuration. And then if you're using line configuration, 25 volt and 70 volt. So if you've got speakers like that are 150 feet away and it's a horn, that would be good when you use the 70 volt one. Auxiliary phone on the back. Pretty simple. The cool thing about these was you could run them off a car battery with the adapter here. And these were all over the place, like small auditorium at universities, in lecture halls, at schools, at all kinds of places. You name it. Churches had a bunch. This one looks like it was set up for, you know, maybe a church or a small auditorium based on the cables that I saw. And I'll tell you, when I was doing some DJ work in the mid-80s, this is kind of like, we had a setup. We had a realistic mixer, which I did a video on that a couple months ago. I found it at a thrift store. We had 2 of those mixers actually, and 2 of these. And at dances we had a couple Cerwin Vegas, and we didn't run them in stereo, we ran them in mono. And basically what we had was a 2 side-by-side systems. So a turntable going into one of these through a little preamp that took a 9 volt battery, or through the mixer board, the realistic mixer that had a phone, midnight phone stage, and into one of these. And the speakers were side by side. And if 1 amp blew, we could just walk out and unplug and move the plugs over to the other amp. You always had a backup amp. These rarely blew because of that transformer, and they were run hard. Those big Cerwin Vegas like to run at 4 ohms. So anyway, this one here, I took the lid off. The lid has a lot of scratch. There's obviously tape on it. It may have been instructions on how to use it. I think there's actually one of these at our church tucked in a corner in one of the rooms. Here's the thing that kind of makes me chuckle about the way things have gone in this department. You could set something like this up with a couple of microphones or through a mixer board and a couple of speakers very quickly. And it was very easy. Anybody could come up to this and go, power, volume, right? Plug in a microphone. They were very easy to understand, very easy to use. Now in a lot of places, and there'll be small venues, I see these huge digital mixing boards, and they'll have 4 or 5 PCs running and into different kinds of switchers, and it's become a very tough game to keep up with. Let me put it to you that way. And you'll have, I know one church we were at, they had literally a 500 watt PA amp running, a room that at most sat, maybe 80 to 100 people. And it used to surprise me, like, how overdone these systems are now. And really, a lot of times, they don't even sound that good. I don't know how many times lately we've gone to venues, and the music group is actually quite good, but they're played with feedback and digital artifacts in the sound, and couple mics are set too high, and they're blowing out the instruments, and you don't have a control you can turn. This is the thing that why I like this analog stuff. You have a control you can actually turn, and so you hear something feeding back, and there's 3 people at the console, another one on a laptop, another one on a phone. They're trying to figure out how to turn a microphone down. Anyway, the other neat thing about these is people used to use them for musical instruments. I actually had one of these that had been damaged, kind of broken up, and so I converted so it had 2 controls basically, a sub volume and a volume, and I turned it into a guitar amp, and I had a small board inside of it as amplification for a guitar pickup. I used that for quite a while and literally drove it almost into extinction. You get kind of a neat sounding transistor overdrive from these if you run a guitar through it. Sort of like it's like a buzzy, sometimes a bit harsh, but it is kind of a neat sound. This is the alternate ending. So anyway, I am going to spend a little bit of time on it. I see there's a couple of C509s, and those are kind of famous for being noisy. When you look at the few parts, I'm going to recap it, and then I'll do a follow-up video on it. Just see if we can have some fun with the mixer and stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching and listening.